Welcome to my presentation. My name is Mohamed Akhlari. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Plugzio. And this presentation is all about giving you some more information about electric vehicle charging. And this is, I call it the open-minded approach to electric vehicle charging. It's kind of like things that you have to hear and nobody else tells you. At Plugzio, our mission is to make charging simple. Bloomberg projected that by 2030, more than 60% of new vehicle sales are going to be electric. So this is not a momentary thing. We're going to see electric vehicles taking over soon, earlier than we ever think. Because in Norway right now, about 60% of new vehicle sales are already electric. So the storm is coming. There's no escape from it. And electric vehicles are actually very simple. They're like smartphones on wheels. They're so simple that a lot of companies that you don't really think would want to get into electric mobility are actually getting to electric mobility. Like Sony is creating an electric vehicle, or at some point Dyson wanted to create an electric vehicle. So they're so super simple. And that's actually the beauty of it, because simplicity means there's no maintenance cost, there's no, I always say the environmental reasons are the side benefits. Like electric vehicles overall are just better vehicles. And I'm here in my presentation, and my goal is to let you know that electric vehicle charging is also very simple. And we try to complicate things, usually when there's profit involved in complications, but it doesn't have to be. So my goal for this presentation is to walk you through a different way of thinking about electric vehicle charging. So let's actually begin with the basics. There's 3 levels of charging. Level 3 is supercharging. It's very high power, also very high cost, obviously. There's level 2. I'm going to skip over these really fast because you probably know them. There's level 2, which is not as fast or as high power as level 3, but still high power and still high cost compared to other versions of charging. And there's big companies that work on these. EVBox, ChargePoint, there's so many of them. There's like 20 or 30 off the top of my head that I can name that are focused on this. But on the other hand, we have level 1 charging, which is exactly what we focus on. We are not here to say we do a lot of things. We only do one thing and we're the best at it. We only focus on level 1 charging. So the way we thought about charging is we said, instead of making the charger smart, let's actually make the outlet smart. So when you connect any type of charger to it, all of a sudden it becomes smart. So the way we came up with our model is different than all the other chargers on the market. And there's multiple reasons for this. One of them is every vehicle comes with a charger. It's kind of like when you buy a laptop, it comes with an adapter, or a phone, it comes with a charger. Every vehicle you purchase, electric vehicle, has a charger inside of it. Like this is a Tesla charger that you can see. Nissan Leaf have their own chargers, and you can plug these into regular outlets. So we thought we're not gonna go the redundant way. If there is a charger, we're just gonna make it smart by making the power that this feeds to smart. And this is also the same philosophy in Europe, because across Europe you rarely see chargers that have cables attached to them. It's a mentality that every electric vehicle has a cable in the trunk. They get out of the vehicle, they plug in the cable to the charger, they plug the other end to the vehicle, and they leave. So this whole thing of having cables attached to chargers is a North American redundancy. So it's not anywhere else that you go, unless it's a supercharger, because superchargers have different cables, they need to be bigger. You're not going to see cables lying around with level 2 or lower power chargers. So we take that philosophy from Europe and we try to bring it to North America. Now, one of the most common questions, and I'm going to go over some of the common ones that we get, is how long does it take to charge an EV using level 1 or other levels from 0% to 100%. And this question is probably number one question that we get. And this question is actually the wrong question to ask. And the big reason for this is electric vehicles is a lifestyle. It's you leave the house with full battery. You only have to fill up what you have used during the day, not the whole battery. Right? So the gas mentality is I go empty and then I go full. But electric vehicle drivers are like bumblebees. They go from charger to charger to charger. So you must only fill up what you've used since the last charging session, not the whole battery. And the other thing that people mistake when it comes to exactly this question is they have this mentality that they have to stand there for 5 hours to charge, which is not true, because you have to do that with a gas vehicle. You either have to sit in the car or stand there until gas is full. But with electric vehicles, I always tell people that it only takes me 5 minutes to charge, because I get out of my vehicle, I plug in the charger, I go home and I sleep. I come back to a fully charged vehicle. So it only takes me 5 minutes. It may take the car 6 hours, but I don't care. I'm up there watching Netflix. So that's why this question is asked in the wrong way. It's not taking into account the actual behavior of electric vehicle owners. And according to Forbes, if you don't want to believe me, believe Forbes, it says if an office can put in 5 low power chargers at a cost of 1 level 2 charging, that might be a better choice, because people travel only about 40 miles a day. And you can fill up 40 miles with any slow charger that you can possibly find. So Forbes also approves this whole philosophy. So you may ask, what is the right question to ask? The right question to ask is, how long is the vehicle staying at that location? Not how long do you want them to stay. Like, these are different questions. How long are they staying at that location? So if they're staying less than 1 hour, level 3 charging is the best. Like, they're en route to their destination. They don't want to stay for a long period. They just want to have some food and get some charge. Less than 1 hour, level 3 is best. Level 2, 1 to 4 hours, like gyms, restaurants, you're there for a few hours, transient parking. Level 2 is the best case scenario. And again, I emphasize on the fact that this is not how long do you want them to stay. You don't want to enforce time limits. You don't want to install a level 2 and say you can only stay here for 4 hours. That's extremely inconvenient for the user. And level 1, more than 5 hours. So if it's for long duration parking, if people are staying for long durations, level 1 is the best case scenario, because you can have it on scale, you can have it at home and at work, and you're always parked. Like, if you bring in the fact that 95% of a vehicle's lifetime is spent parked somewhere, you will come to understand that level 1 charging, if you have it anywhere, you're always 100% charged. So another big question that we get, what if someone wants to travel far the next day, right? Like, this is basic sales tactics, the oldest tactic in the books, scare tactics. Like, what if you wanted to see your mom the next day and you didn't have enough battery? But the fact is, your range is dependent on the size of your battery, not the speed of your charger. So you can travel as far as your battery allows, and your charging speed becomes irrelevant. Because if you have 100 miles on your battery, you can only go 100 miles. It doesn't matter if you're plugged into a level 3 charger, level 2 charger, or level 1 charger, you're always fully charged. Now you may come back and say, yeah, what if someone is an Uber driver and their battery is always fully depleted? That's an outlier. You don't build infrastructure based on outliers. You should never do that, right? And then that Uber driver can always use a public level 3 charger. You don't have to build an infrastructure based on that single person. Infrastructure should be built based on majority needs. And electric vehicle charging in properties is an amenity, and it has to be treated as such. So I always tell people, asking for expensive high power charging in a property for just in case scenarios is kind of like asking for 300-pound dumbbells at the gym just in case my son wants to join the Olympics. I mean, sure, but there's public gym for that. Just like there's public level 3 charging, supercharging for extreme cases. Like we have to only cover majority of scenarios when we build infrastructure for like shared properties or shared places. So that covers that question. Now, because of this scarcity problem, that the fact that the chargers are very expensive, people go in and say, okay, install 1 charger or 2 chargers and share it between people, right? And this could be a short-term solution, but it's a long-term pain. It will cause major source of inconvenience and conflicts in the long term. Nobody wants to come down in their pajamas to move their vehicles so somebody else can plug in. Like, this is super inconvenient. Nobody wants to come down in the middle of their meeting and move their vehicle. Like they come in and say, the salespeople, they come in and say, we're gonna double charge them if they don't come down. You're adding to the inconvenience. Like, the whole point is not to create penalties. Imagine if you had 3 kids and you wanted to share a tablet between all of them, right? You would have to enforce policies, create penalties, and it would be super painful. Now imagine adding 2 more kids to the pile. You have 5 kids sharing the same tablet. All hell would break loose. Like, it would be chaos. And with the exponential growth around electric vehicles, this is going to happen in every property. Sharing is not really caring anymore. Like, people want to have their chargers at their private space and they can use it for as long as they want to. I always tell people, it's save yourself the headache by creating infrastructure that is built for long-term, with a long-term vision, not a short-term solution. If electric vehicles wouldn't be on a path to take over gas vehicles, I wouldn't say this, because you just want to get rid of the few people who are knocking on the door and you're like, oh no, there's a shared charger, go share it, figure this out. But because electric vehicles are going to be taking over at some point, everyone has to think about infrastructure that could work in the long term, not just short term, 5 months, 6 months. Load balancing solutions also follows the same principle. Load balancing only works if there's few people plugged in. But if you have more people joining the network, which you will in the short term, then the speeds are going to be on par with level 1 charging. So you may as well start with level 1 charging rather than do expensive level 2 and then add expensive load balance solutions. Why? Like, that's not a long-term solution either. To summarize all of this before we get to our solution, how we can help. Best use cases, level 3 quick charges. I always tell cities this is best installations are in high density areas near highways where people want to just plug in. Like, level 3 choice is basically you will have to stop to go to the bathroom at some point on your trip, right? Or you will get hungry at some point, right? You will lose power earlier than your vehicle does. So that's where the level 3 charges should be positioned, right? So you go out, you want to eat something, your car gets fully charged on level 3 and you move on. Level 2 should only be used for top-ups, transient parking. And it's mainly, the use case I've seen is for luxury places that want to say, we have level 2 charging, please come to us. Like gyms, restaurants, right? It's kind of an attraction, but it's not something people really need. It's something people want. It's the difference between wanting and needing something is, I want to have a Lamborghini, but all I need is a bicycle, right? So it's level 2 charging is not what people really need. It's but with people, it's an attraction rather than solving a problem. And level 1 is daily usage. Perfect scenario for long duration parking. That's our niche. Like, if there's one keyword that I want to transfer to you, is we are built for long duration parking. Apartments, workplace charging, schools, airports, we're going to see some case studies after this too. These are perfect scenarios for us. And actually, in fact, about 80% of charging happens at work or at home. Like, this is obvious. Like 80% of your phone's charging also happens at work or at work. Like, you don't buy a phone because you have a charger at the mall. Like, you know you have an outlet at home, right? And you don't share the same outlet with your wife. You don't wake up at 3 a.m., unplug your charger and plug your wife's charger in. There's no sharing involved. We want to transfer that mentality to electric vehicles. Your private charger for long duration, this is your precious. Use it for as long as you want. Some case studies. So SFU, Simon Fraser University, they had 8 level 2 chargers. They were always occupied. And if you go on PlugShare and read the comments people put on there, they're interesting. They say, this guy comes in the morning and they never move the vehicle. I need a charge desperately. And so they decided that we're going to install 43 EV ready spaces with Plugzio. You can see the image here. And they solved the EV charging problem once and for all. The whole cost was $55,000 and cost per space was about $1,200. This includes Plugzio, installations, permits, a new transformer, everything. And for the fun of it, I always do this experiment too. Like, what do you think would a level 2 estimate for this installation was? 43 units installation. Just give me a guess, Mike or Ian. A lot bigger, $368,000. So they actually saved over $300,000. That's 300 more EV spaces that they could cover. With like this is the magnitude difference that we're talking about. And students and faculty, they come in the morning, they leave at night. They don't need level 2 charging, right? So it's an overkill, and also it's an expensive. Like, it keeps people from installing chargers. That's the big problem with level 2. They always say we don't have the budget, but by changing the way you think about electric vehicle charging, you always have the budget. So you can always support people when you choose low power. Now, if you don't want to go full on, like installing 43 units at once, even though only like 10 of them are going to be used at this point, maybe future is going to be more, you can do what Hollyburn Properties did. They sent an email to residents asking for who drives an EV. And they only went into properties and installed for their specific people who wanted to have a charger, who had an EV, with the possibility to expand in the future. So they used bigger conduits. So anybody who wants to have a charger later on, they can use that bigger conduit to run cabling and have their own charger. So they did it based on demand. 32 spaces, 17 buildings, $25,000. It's about $25,000 because it's counting. Every week they're installing more units. They have Hollyburn Properties is a big property management company. They have over, I think, about 100 properties. So they're installing more properties as people come in and request it. But as you can see, this cost includes the installation, includes the Plugzio unit. So it's super convenient for this property to go in and say, I'm going to install this, because they don't have to think about like 5-10K cost for any single unit installation. It's super simple for them. And the beauty of level 1 and making outlets smart is you're basically looking at charging as an ecosystem, not just for EVs, because level 2, level 3 chargers are only for EVs, but for anything that needs power. That could be electric bicycles, electric scooters, and in fact, electric bicycles, scooters are growing much faster than electric vehicles without any government incentives. Actually, the Senate recently is starting to create some incentives for electric bicycles, but the future of mobility is not just electric vehicles, it's also micro-mobility. I have an electric bicycle and I absolutely love it. And there is no public infrastructure for me to charge, which is inconvenient, right? So I always tell people, when you consider charging, look at the whole ecosystem, not just electric vehicles, because you don't want to come back after spending millions of dollars in like 5 years and say, okay, what do we do now with electric bicycles? Build infrastructure that covers everything. And they did it basically. City of Victoria installed this for across town in their bicycle parkades, as you can see in the images. And we were surprised by the number of people who actually use them. And they were surprised too. Like, they did it because they wanted to see analytics. They wanted to see if people use these outlets, how often do they use them, so they can expand their operations. Because before this, they were in total darkness. They didn't know if these outlets are being used at all. And they also use their own facility crew. So the benefit of our device is it's an outlet. You can use any electrician can install it. So you may ask, what does Plugzoo offer over a regular outlet? There's three main things. Consumption tracking. So you can monitor usage remotely based on voltage, current, power, every parameter with respect to energy. User sessions, who use them for how long, how often are they used. Device and region tracking, you can say, is this region using more or is this region using more? We can do automatic billing, so we basically take the money from the user, we pay the property owner. So you can set usage fees per kilowatt hour, per hour, flat rate, time of use pricing, access control. You can say this person has to pay this much. The concierge pays nothing even if they use the same outlet, right? The city employees, you pay nothing. The visitors have to pay. So you have access control over these. Analytics, so you can manage your power across the building. So you can separate accounts per property. You can say the money from this property goes into this account. Like, it helps accounting at the end of the day. You can export reports in Excel. You can tap into building management systems. There is we are a micro utility service, and we give you the power to manage, monitor, and monetize power at a micro level, not at a macro level, which the utilities do, but at a low end, at an outlet level. So this is Plugzoo before, so the property pays for the utility fee no matter who uses the devices. And this used to be okay because people were vacuum cleaning their cars using those outlets, and the power was nothing. Property would lose its value if they would go and say, you have to pay me $1 to vacuum clean your car. But now with big batteries, this is a huge problem. We see people who walk in, we see residents who walk in and unplug chargers from the outlet saying, I'm not paying for your electricity to charge your vehicle. The problem is becoming fairness on top of the cost of electricity. So we actually come in and we solve this. We say, whoever wants to use power, we take the money from them based on the rate that is set by the property. We transfer the money to the property, and so now the property is not bleeding money, and there's no reason for them to reject people access to charging, right? So we solve the problem in a fairly simple way. And the way Plugzoo works is also simple. By default, I have a unit right here. So by default, there's no electricity flowing, right? And there's a QR code on this. So when you plug in your device, you scan the QR code or you put in the number, you will see the rate that the manager sets for usage, and they could set it based on any rate. You can negotiate with them. We don't set the rates. We're a micro utility service. They set the rates. And as soon as you accept the rate, the electricity starts flowing. And the safety mechanism that we have is when you unplug, as soon as you unplug, the power shuts down. So the next person has to activate again. So people cannot cheat and use power on your account and just quickly swap the cables. That doesn't work for us. So this is like the high level of how the system works. We're almost done on the slides. So we have two types of hardware, Plugzoo Integrated, which you saw, which basically replaces existing outlets. We also have Plugzoo Universal, which is a smart junction box. So it sits in between any device and the power, and allows you to control that device and monitor and monetize that device that comes in line with the Plugzoo Universal. I have an image which I will show you in the next step. So the prices for these are between $350 to $490, depending on the type of the device that you use. So we have cellular devices, which are plug and play. There's a SIM card inside each of these devices. So you install them, your facility crew installs them, and immediately connects to our server. No setup that is required. We have Wi-Fi systems, which are built for scale. Because Wi-Fi is always a better choice for anyone, because it's not only used by these devices. Electric vehicles of the future need Wi-Fi to get updates and security features and whatever. So it's always better to have Wi-Fi, especially if you're going for scale. And we have areas where there's absolutely zero connectivity, like they're literally caves, Faraday cages. For those areas, we have Bluetooth. So Bluetooth devices are passive, and they work through the person's mobile phone. So we transfer the data to the person's mobile phone via Bluetooth. And as soon as their mobile phone has internet connectivity, the data gets uploaded to our server, which the management can look at, consumption and payments and all of that. So it's a passive device. It works in caves. So that's the price difference that you see here. This is an image of the Plugzoo Universal. You can see on this right side, it's connected to a level 1 charger. So if you want to have a charger with a cable, which we don't generally recommend, but some people just want to have a charger, they like the idea of having a cable, you can do this. Or you can connect it to an outlet outdoors. So these are outdoor rated IP66 or 67 if I'm not wrong. I think it's 66. So you can install them outdoors. For safety reasons, you can actually lock your cable in to this. So you can buy a lock and just lock your cable to make sure that nobody can physically even unplug you. You're not ever worried about the charge of electricity, because that's taken care of. You get unplugged, the power shuts down. But if you're worried about your cable and you want to leave your cable and just go on your road, then you can lock your cable in. This is installation of Plugzoo integrated. This is actually in California. All these 4 units that you see here, the cost of full installation was the same as the cost of one level 2 charger. And as soon as these went up in San Mateo, 2 residents in the properties put in orders to buy Model 3s. Like, that's the power that we have. Like, people, when you give them the opportunity at a very low affordable rate, there is no reason for them not to go electric, right? So some history about us: we got incorporated in 2016. We have managed over 13.1 megawatt hours of power, over 9,000 charging hours. We have operations over 20 cities around the world, and by that I really mean around the world, because we have installations in New Delhi, India as well. So the good thing about India is 90% of vehicles are 3-wheel scooters, so they can only charge using an outlet. They don't need high power charging, and the density doesn't allow for high power charging. They tried installing high power charging. The lineup to the charger was so long that was causing traffic in the city, so they took them out. So it's like we're an intercontinental company incorporated in 2016. We built a 5,000 square foot manufacturing plant in BC. I picked these images because as we built this facility, the COVID hit. This is 2020, and we had to shut it down for safety reasons. As you can see, it's empty. It's kind of sad, but it's not usually this empty. Hopefully, we all get our vaccines soon, so we can see this office in full capacity. And my last slide: 80% of our sales comes from word of mouth, people introducing us to each other. And there's 3 main reasons for this. One is affordability. We are 1/5 of the cost of the competition with same feature set. We're simple. There's no training or unnecessary permits involved to do installation. Installing an outlet is electrician 101. So it's super simple. It's super easy to install and to maintain. Like, that's also the simplicity of it, because we're low power. Maintenance is super low. And we're scalable. 5 times as many people can be charging at the same time on the same electrical panel compared to one high power charger which you have to share between a few people. So we're all about scalability. Thank you for your attention and time.